starting in our very easy, comfortable seated position. Legs are crossed, sitting bones are underneath of us, and we begin to breathe into our belly. Feel the ribs expand, that diaphragm moving down, opening up all around in our torso. We'll pull the shoulders back and down, lift the heart ever so slightly, lengthen in the spine. Take a couple, 3 deep inhales through our nose and exhaling from our mouths. Checking in with how we are feeling right now, making sure that we are taking little moments throughout our practice to check our progress, how we are feeling. And we'll inhale, lengthen in that spine, and then exhale, just a little twist around to the right, keeping our chin even in line with our chest. We're just waking up that back a little bit. And then we'll slowly come around to the center. Another big inhale, and then exhaling around to the left. Little twist here. Good, and back to the center. Inhale, we'll lengthen, exhale, coming around to the right. Little twist, we'll stay here for 2 breaths. And then back to the center, and then around to the left again. Another 2 breaths here. And then back to the center. Now this time, inhale, lengthen, exhale. We twist to the right and keep that left hand all the way to the outside of that right thigh. Lengthen on that inhale. And now, as we exhale, we'll take that right hand, touch behind our shoulder blades, and then just lower the shoulders over toward the left knee. Little side stretch here, little twist. And then we'll slowly come back up. And then around to the center, lengthen, and then exhale around to the left. Little twist here. Once we get into that twist, we'll keep that right hand to the outside of the left thigh. Left hand will reach up and then just touch behind the shoulders. And slowly we'll lower that right shoulder down toward its matching knee, keeping those shoulders opening, softening in the neck and the shoulders. Our hand is behind the head, but we're not pushing the head. We're just opening up in that armpit area. Maybe as we sink down, we start to feel a little bit opening in our side body, maybe down into that outer hip on the left side. Good. And then inhale, we'll come back, unwind to the center. And then hands will just be out in front of us. Lengthen on that inhale. And then creepy crawl those fingers slowly. We'll just take a few breaths and work our way down into a little forward fold. Lengthen on the inhales. Exhale, chests lower down. Using that breath, feeling our sitting bones pressing in towards our mat. Feel that lower back begin to release. Give it a little space in there. And then once we've gone as far as we can reach, we can drop the head and just relax the neck. Arms are out in front of us. Thumbs are still pressing into our mats. And then slowly we'll walk those hands back, raising our chests up to seated. And then the hands will come back behind us. Pull those shoulders back. Lift the heart. Lift the chin. And then slowly coming back up, hands will find the floor out in front of us, and we'll wiggle those fingers forward so we can roll over the shins and come on to our hands and our knees. Fingers are wide underneath of our shoulders. Knees are underneath of our hips. We tuck that tail just a little bit. Keep that back open and long. Breathing into our bellies. Good. And we'll tuck the toes underneath of us. We're just going to press our hips back, and maybe stretch in the arches and in the toes. Good. And then inhale, we'll come back to that tabletop. We can soften the feet, and we'll come back with those hips and go all the way down to our child's pose. Arms are out in front of us, butts are low, shoulders are relaxed as our chests sink down towards the mat. Good. And then when we inhale, we'll bring those shoulders up. Come into a little plank here. Think about tilting that pelvis, opening up that low back, pressing into the palms, opening up the shoulders behind us. Tummy is strong. And then exhale, chests come forward, elbows go back as we lower ourselves down to our tummies. Hands are underneath of our shoulders. Good. Inhale, we'll scoop up into our little cobra. And then press into those hands all the way back to our child's pose. Good. Inhale, let's come up to our little plank. Exhale, we'll lower down. Inhale, scooping into our little cobra. And then pressing back to our child's pose. To do that 2 more times. Inhale, we'll come up. Exhale, we'll lower down. Inhale, we scoop. And then exhale, we press back. 1 more time, coming on up. Lowering down. Lifting that chest. And then pressing back to our child's pose. Good. And now inhale, we'll come up to that little plank again, and we'll bring that right foot forward as well to the outside of that right pinky into a lizard pose from here, a little lunge. Wiggle our way into it. Let those hips get used to what we're doing with them. Good, and then we'll keep that left hand on the floor, lift up the right, a little twist here. And then exhale, bringing it back down. And then stepping back for child's pose. Then inhale, coming forward for that little plank, left foot to the outside of the pinky, lizard pose on this side. Wiggle our way into it. And then we'll begin to lift up that left hand, little twist on this side. And back down. And all the way back to our child's pose. Inhale, coming forward, right foot for our little lunge here. Inhale, right hand comes up. Exhaling down. Stepping back, child's pose. Inhale forward, left foot comes up to the top. And then we lift up the left hand, little twist. And back down. All the way back, child's pose. Let's take a breath here in our child's pose. Good. And then let's inhale up. Right foot comes forward into our little lunge here, little lizard pose. Good. Right hand will come up. And then as we exhale, we're just going to bring that elbow down as if we almost want to touch the floor and maybe touch our shoulder with the hand. Little twist to the other direction. Inhale, we come up. And then exhale, coming down. Inhale, we'll come up. And exhale, lowering down a little bit past that knee. Inhale up. Exhaling down. Good. Inhaling up. One more time. Exhaling down. And then we'll come back to the floor with that right hand into our little lunge. Find the balance, and we'll slowly raise those hands up high for a crescent lunge. Good. Keeping the chest lifting, hips are sinking down. Let's bring those arms back behind us as if we want to reach for that foot back behind. Opening up that chest. Lengthening in the spine and in the neck. And then again, inhale, hands come up high. And then exhale, let's lower them back down. And we'll step back for child's pose. Good. Coming on up, left foot will come forward. Sinking down into our little lunge. Good. And then left hand gets its turn, lifting high here, sinking those hips down. And then as we exhale, lowering the elbow. And if we want to touch the outside of that right shoulder, inhale, we come up. And exhale, we lower down. Inhaling up. And exhaling down. Moving with our breath. At our own pace if we need. Inhaling up. And exhaling down. Let's do a couple more here. And exhaling down. Good. One more. Exhale, lowering that elbow. Nice and low. And then we'll place both hands onto our mat. Find that balance. And then we'll come up for our crescent lunge here. Hips are coming forward. Spine is lengthening. Chest is open. And now let's lower those hands back behind us. A little chest expansion, if you will, in that crescent lunge. And then hands come back up. And then we'll slowly lower them back down to our mats. And we'll step back to our child's pose. One breath here. Good. And then from here, let's tuck those toes underneath of our butts. We'll walk those hands back. Begin to tuck that tail as we roll our way up onto our toes underneath of our butts. As we tuck, we should begin to feel a little bit of a stretch in our quads. Continuing to stretch into those feet. Good, and then inhale, let's bring those butts up off of the heels so the hips are over the knees now, lengthening in that back. And then we'll take our hands, we can even make little fists, and we'll put them at the very, very bottom of that back. Pull the shoulders, open the chest, support that low back as we begin to lift the chest. Little tiny back bend here. Keep pulling those shoulders and elbows back. Hips are coming forward, chests are lifting high. Good, and then exhale. We'll just lower those butts back down to our heels. Take a break. We can even come down to a child's pose if we need. Good, inhale, round two. Coming up over those knees with our hips. Fists come back behind us, supporting that low back. Pulling the shoulders back, lifting the heart. Hips are coming forward as if we're trying to get them to the wall in front of us. And now from here, let's lower that right hand back to that right heel. Keep opening up the chest to the sky. And then the left hand can reach up and over our head. And then slowly we'll come back up. Lower those hips down. And again, if we need for a little counter pose, we can round in that spine for a little child's pose or modification of. And then we'll roll our way back up. Last time, inhale, hips come over the knees, hands go back behind us, pulling the chest back, lifting the heart. And now this time, left hand will try and find that ankle or the heel. Right hand reaches up, and again, chest is still pointing toward the sky. Hips are coming forward. And then slowly we raise up. We can soften those feet underneath of us, lower the hips down. We'll come all the way down into a child's pose or a rabbit. Hands can come down by our toes for rabbit. Begin to breathe really deeply into that low back. Good. Let's bring those hands out in front of us. Fingers are wide. Begin to pull the shoulders away from our ears, spiraling those arms so that we can see the inside of the elbow coming towards the sky. We'll tuck those toes again, and we'll press into those hands and feet and lift our butts up for downward facing dog. You can pedal the feet here. Hit the calves. And then find that length in our back, pulling those shoulders back, lifting the hips up toward the sky. And we bend those knees so we can get that good long spine. And then once we get that set, we can begin to press the heels down in toward our mats. Good. Looking forward, just past our fingers, bending the knees very deeply. Let's step forward to the top of our mat, in between of our hands. We'll find a forward fold here. Bending the knees deeply, rounding as we roll our way up. The chin should be the last thing that raises as we find ourselves in Tadasana. Core is working, thighs and glutes are working, pressing into all four corners of our feet. Fingers are reaching down toward the ground. Head is lifting toward the sky. Good, let's inhale those hands up high. Good, exhale, let's bring them down to our hearts, pressing into the palms. We'll begin to lift that right leg, bringing the knee into our chest. Good. And then exhale, let's step all the way back for a high lunge here. Good, let's open up warrior two. Bending that left knee, opening up our hips toward the right, pressing into that right heel, spiraling those thighs, moving them away from each other here, lifting from the pelvic floor all the way up to the top of the head. Arms are reaching to the into opposite directions. Our gaze is looking just past the middle finger on that left hand. Shoulders are moving down away from our ears. And then inhale, let's lift that left hand up to the sky for reverse warrior. Good, exhaling, side angle. Inhale, reverse warrior. Exhale, side angle. Good. Inhale, reverse warrior. Good. And then from here, let's lengthen both legs. Hands come up to the sky. We're going to point ourselves toward the right. Toes are pointing in that direction as well. So we're in our star pose here. Exhale, hands come down to our hearts. We'll bend that right knee, shifting over for a skandasana or side lunge over on this side. And then inhale, we come up. And then exhale over to the other side, bending that left knee. We can lift up those right toes. Butt comes low, chest is high. Good. Inhaling up. Toes are pointing out in front of us here. Exhale, hinging at the hips. Let's fold forward. Wide-legged forward fold here. Now let's walk those hands over toward that right foot. Left hand will reach the outside of that right foot or the ankle. And then let's lift up that right hand up to the sky. Little twist here. Good. Slowly we lower that down. Come back to the center. And then over to that left foot. Right hand reaches all the way across. Weight comes into our toes more than to our heels so that we're keeping our hips where we need them to be. Left hand reaches up to the sky. Good, and slowly we'll come back to the center. Drop the head into that fold. Good, and then we'll slowly bend the knees. Inhale, come all the way up high. Good, we'll point those left toes to the top of our mat. Turn our way for a high lunge. Good, hands come to our hearts. We'll step forward to the top of our mat and find ourselves here at the top of our mat into a Tadasana again. Good. Good. And let's shift those weights to the right foot, bringing the knee nice and high in towards our chest. And then we'll step all the way back again for a high lunge on the second side. Sinking down into that lunge. I'm going to switch sides so that you're not just watching my back. Good. And now let's open up warrior two on this side. Bending that left or that right knee, left leg is nice and long. Opening the hips out toward our left. Good. Inhale, reverse warrior. Exhale, side angle. Good. Inhale, reverse warrior. And side angle. Good. Reverse warrior, lifting that right hand. And then we'll lengthen both legs, begin to turn toward the left. Nice and high for our star pose. Good. Exhale, hands come down to our hearts, over to this left knee, bending for skandasana. Good. And then inhale, we come up. And then exhale, over to the right. Good. Inhale, we come up. Toes point out in front of us. Exhale, big wide-legged forward fold. Good. Hands are underneath of us. Let's walk those hands over to that left foot, reaching across with that right hand. Once we get that twist beginning to set, we can lift up the left hand to the sky, stacking the shoulders, lengthening in those legs as best we can, in the back. Good, and slowly we come back to the center. When we're ready, walking our hands over to that right foot. Beginning to twist to the right. When we're ready, right hand comes up to the sky. And then slowly we'll come back to the center. Hands are underneath of our shoulders. Let's lengthen like a half lift here. And then exhale, we'll fold forward. Good. And then we'll soften those knees so we can roll our way up ever so slowly as we have been upside down for a little bit. Hands can come down to our hearts. We'll point those right toes to the top of the mat, and we'll turn our way into our high lunge. And then stepping forward with the left. Hands are to our hearts, pulling the shoulders back, pressing into both feet below us, lifting from the top of our head. Good. From here, let's bring those knees and thighs together, sitting low into our chair. Think about this low back staying open, not arching, but open. Not rounding either. Good. Inhaling nice and high. And now exhale, let's fold forward. Inhale to a flat back, long legs. Exhale, we fold. And then we'll step back for a downward facing dog. Good. Let's inhale forward into a plank. Plank can be on our toes or it can be on our knees. We'll exhale, lower our way down. All the way to our tummies here. And then turn around so that you can kind of see where we're at here. We'll do a little thread the needle here. So we'll start in our goalposts arms. We'll press into our right hand. And we'll take the left hand, reach it underneath, palm up. And then we'll slowly lower our way back down. And then we'll press again into that right arm so that we can untangle ourselves. We can take a breath here in the center. And then when we're ready, we'll go to the other side. So pressing that left hand so that we can thread that right arm through, lowering the chest back down. Good. And then we'll press into the left hand, untangle ourselves, and we'll find ourselves back onto our tummies and to our goalpost arms here. Take a breath. Then we'll bring those hands underneath of our shoulders and we'll press all the way back to child's pose. Hips are over our heels, round in the spine. Good. And then we'll swish those feet over to one side. We'll come down onto our bottoms and swing the legs all the way around out in front of us. Good. And then from here, our knees are bent, our feet are on the floor. What we'll do is we'll take our right foot and we'll cross it over this left knee, flexing the right foot, and then think about keeping that right knee moving away from our bodies here. Our hands can come back behind us if we would like. We can keep a nice tall chest here. And then we can always move this left foot closer or further away, depending on what we need to help this right hip out. Good. And then let's slowly lengthen this left leg. We'll keep the cross on the with that right foot, but we'll just bring it all the way around to the floor so that the knee is pointing up toward the sky. With that left arm, we're just gonna hug that right knee into our body super, super tight. And then the right hand will find a spot behind us here. We'll lengthen on that inhale. And then exhale, begin to twist toward the right. Think about keeping this right hip moving down toward the floor as we hug tightly that knee in towards our chest. And then slowly we'll release, unwind, and we'll bring those hands all the way around to the left for a little counter twist here. And slowly coming all the way back up. We'll uncross those legs and we'll come back with both feet onto our mat. Good. Right foot will stay where it is. Left foot will cross over that right knee. And again, let's think about moving that left knee away from our bodies. Hands can come back behind us. Nice tall spine here. And try and get deep into that left hip. Maybe a little glute. Good. And then we'll slowly lengthen that right leg, keeping that left foot crossed over. We'll just place the foot on the floor to the outside. We'll hug that knee tight, tight, tight into our body with that right arm. Lengthen in that back. And then as we exhale, into twist toward the left. Good. And then we'll slowly unwind back around to the center. And then even pass around to the right side. We can lower our head around in the back. A little counter stretch here. And then we'll come back up to the center. Uncross those legs. We can bend our knees and we'll roll up into our little ball and rock back onto our backs. Rocking forward and backward. Give ourselves that little tiny massage. And then when we've massaged ourselves enough, we'll roll up into our little ball here. And then holding the backs of our legs, we'll lengthen them up to the sky. We can even lift our chest a little bit so that we are touching just gently behind the backs of our legs, behind the thighs or behind the calves, flexing those feet. And then let's begin to relax those shoulders back down and our heads down into our mats, guiding the legs to come towards us just a little bit. We need to bend those knees a little bit. That's completely fine, of course. Or you can bend, bring them to you, and then begin to straighten. Bend, bring them close, and then straighten. Tiny movements. Good. And now let's release that left leg. We'll hold the right. And then we'll bend that right knee, hugging the shin with our arms so that we can bring that leg tight, tight, tight into our bodies. Good. Releasing that right leg. Left leg will come into our chest, hugging tight, tight, tight. And then we'll release the hold on that left leg. Both knees can come into our chest. We'll roll up into our little egg here. Take another deep breath in through our nose. And then feel us push that air out of our nose again. One more inhale. And then exhale. Let's release everything. And lower our legs and arms down to our mats. And find a comfortable position for Shavasana. We close our eyes. And with every breath, we soften a little bit deeper into our mat. Just allow our mind to wander. Let those thoughts come in, acknowledge that we have them, and then just let them go away again. And we deepen our breath. And we bring subtle movements into our fingers and our toes. We gently come back into our space. We listen and give our body what it needs right now. Maybe a little twist or a wiggle, big stretch. And then we'll bring those knees into our chest again. We'll rock over onto our side and help ourselves up to seated. And take a moment to check in with how we are feeling right now after our practice. We'll remind ourselves throughout the day to check in again and again and make sure that we are giving our body what it needs as we're sitting at our desks or on our feet at work, making sure that we give ourselves little bits of time, reset, physically or mentally. We bring our hands together at our hearts, bow our heads, and give thanks to us for all of the gifts that we just gave ourselves. I thank you so, so much for joining me today, allowing me to help you through your practice. I hope that you feel even just a little bit better than when we started. I wish you all a very, very happy and fantastic day, and I urge you to give yourself some time, even if it's just a few little minutes or little tiny presence of just self-care. Self-care is very, very important. And there's lots of different forms of self-care, and you personally are the only one that knows what you need. So make sure that we're listening to ourselves. We're giving us what we need as best we can. The light in the divine in me recognizes and respects the light in the divine in each of you. And when we are together, whether physically or virtually, we are one. Namaste.